Discusses Republican Congressman Tim Burchett of Tennessee. He's one of 8 lawmakers who voted to oust Kevin McCarthy as a speaker. Congressman, great to see you. Thanks for doing this. Where do we go from here? Where does the House go from here? We saw the House Majority Whip Tom Emmer announce that he's running for Speaker. Congressman Mike Johnson of Louisiana declared he's running. Do you have somebody you're supporting at this point?
Well, if I did, Jim, it would probably tank them, being that I'm one of the 8. I'm probably not one of the more popular people in Congress right now. So I think I'll just keep that between me and those people that I support.
Well, to that point, the former Speaker Kevin McCarthy is calling you and the other 7 Republicans out for what's happening right now. Let's listen to this. Hopefully you can hear it. We'll talk to you about it on the other side.
Sure.
The Crazy Eights, led by Gates, the amount of damage they have done to this party and to this country is insurmountable. We are in a very bad position as a party, one that has won the majority, one that America has entrusted us with, that a simple 8 people have put us in this place.
Congressman, he's calling you the Crazy Eights.
Well, I've been called worse. The trouble is that we followed the rules that Kevin McCarthy voted on, that were voted on unanimously by our conference, and we followed them to a T. And if they didn't like those rules, they shouldn't have put them in place. But the truth of the matter is, our former leadership just kept us going down the road. We ran up $1 trillion in debt in 3 months. We took off the whole month of August, 2 weeks into September, knowing that September 30th was the end of our fiscal year. And I appreciate his speechwriters and their clever writings, but that doesn't serve us very well. And also under his leadership, we would have been off the last week anyway. And then after we came through that almost shutdown of our government, we came back and what did we do? We rushed to the floor on that Monday and named 2 post offices. So,
well, do you think that you're going to need a speaker sooner or later? And do you think you would have had one by now if perhaps somebody was able to emerge that you could get behind? Or is this one of those situations where this is going to take a while?
Sure, I supported everyone. I supported Scalise, and I supported Jim Jordan as well. And we just didn't get there. We've got a deep bench. We're going to be okay. We'll have a couple more weeks to work on this budget situation, the continued resolution, which is what they always seem to pass. But yeah, I think we're going to be okay. I'm not getting too worked up about it.
You don't think it's a bad look that the House of Representatives for the United States government doesn't have a Speaker of the House?
Yeah, of course I do. But it's the situation we're in. It doesn't negate the fact that we just kept running up that debt, and we're going to crush our whole system if we don't get control of that debt. We're paying $1 trillion a year just in interest alone to China. And under what model does it work out where you take in $4.6 trillion and spend $7 trillion? It's what we do every year. And yet we just, enough is enough. We've got to take the fiscal bull by the horns. And that's
but Congressman, one of the things that got in the way of Jim Jordan, it seems, is that there were some brass knuckles tactics being employed, and that there were members of Congress being threatened, spouses of members of Congress being threatened to support Jim Jordan or else. And I'm just wondering what you thought of that. And do you know who was behind that? What was going on with that?
No, I don't. And if it was, we're probably a semi-family show, but I would have taken that into my own hands. I've lived with death threats. I've sexual violence against threats against members of my family, and Capitol Hill Police they told me they didn't consider it a real threat. So I've lived with that. I've spent over $30,000 on home security on our farm. You can't put your foot or your boot on my farm without me having a picture of you or something, because I have there's a picture of 8 or 9 people in my office that are back in the mail room. And if they were to show up, we're supposed to call the U.S. Marshals because they are considered to be dangerous, so that have made threats against us.
But do you think that backfired on Jordan to some extent? Because it sounds as though these threats really cropped up when he was the one who was up for Speaker. And so I wonder if that is something that perhaps members there might want to rethink. And do you think we're going to see more of that?
it didn't help, but I don't think Jim orchestrated it, because if you really look at there was three groups that were against Jim. You had the appropriators, and as you know, on Capitol Hill, there's three parties. There's Republicans, Democrats, and appropriators. And they didn't like the fact that Jim had talked about passing a budget of all things, which we're required to do by law, because when you do the continued resolutions, you know as well as I do, Jim, that all that does is it passes the budget that we had before, and you add on all the other lobbyists and special interest groups that you agrees. Then you had a freshman group, primarily those out of New York and very purple districts. And then you had folks that, for lack of another term, are called war hawks, because they support the American military, and they support every war we're in and every war we're about to get in. So those were actually the three groups that were against, added on the threats.
And what about the Patrick McHenry idea, giving the current Speaker Pro Tem, Patrick McHenry, more power? That way you can get things potentially accomplished between now and the end of the year, prevent a government shutdown, get aid to Israel, those sorts of things. You can't really do anything right now. The Congress is paralyzed.
Yes, sir. Well, we don't know constitutionally if that's legal or not. And also it pushes, we just won't ever get a speaker if we do that. It'll be just like passing a budget. We'll have a speaker light, so to speak. And I don't like bow ties, but I like Patrick McHenry. He wears a bow tie. But and he's not comfortable in that role either. And we, just because of the constitutional suspect nature of that. So I think what we better do is just hold our feet to the fire. We should have not gone home. We were championing and yelling for staying there and finishing our business, which is what we should do. And I think that would send a clear message to America that we mean business, and we're trying to get this thing wrapped up, and we will. But as far as Israel goes, the president has that $100 billion aid package, and only $10 billion of it, 10% of it goes to Israel, oddly enough. The majority of it goes to Ukraine, I believe. And honestly, we haven't even seen that. The Senate hasn't seen that.
We'll double check those numbers, but we'll double check those numbers.
Go ahead.
I think that there is a need to get that aid passed, is there not? And are you saying that you're opposed to that at a moment like this?
No, sir. I'm not opposed to the aid to Israel. I'm opposed to any more aid to Ukraine. And the president's making it a political issue by tying those two things or three things together. And he made a very specific point.
Well, doesn't he have a cause or an inclination to do that sort of thing when we don't even have a Speaker of the House? There's no Speaker of the House right now, so one might think you might have to bundle some things together, or else you might not get anything passed.
No,
given the current state of affairs.
That was what that's what they proposed before. It'd be two simple bills, Jim. All they'd have to do is send two bills over. Both would pass, and then dollars that we've sent to Ukraine. So, and he sent hundreds of millions of dollars to Ukraine without congressional approval. He's already sent largest carrier group in the world there. We've got 12 ships going to the Med. We've got we send them $3.6 billion a year on auto check. Their guns, their armaments are stacked. And the last thing that Israel needs any more interference in the United States of America. Let them fight this war. They know how to fight those wars. And our rules of engagement would hamper them, I do believe, as well. So I think they're going to be fine. We're going to get back to work. We're going to elect a speaker, and we're going to take care of Israel.
All right. Congressman Burchett, thanks very much for your time. We appreciate it. We'll follow up on some of those points at another time.
Go Vol.
Thanks for the time. Okay. Thanks a lot.